I just start pulling on this, it just starts coming off like this. A hammer. That's no bond. This is a total fail. A client has agreed that this is a wall that we cannot save. They've completely failed the curb. This is all loose. This is all loose. Well, this is Greg Twarg from Unique 2. I just come in here. The client was talking about a contractor came in and had done some shoddy work, and so I'm just in here to do a quick forensics to try to figure out how bad the damage is. This is Durock that's installed. Didn't use any thin set underneath it. Just screwed it every several inches, and so when you walk across the floor, you can definitely hear it. You can hear it. It's moving. You definitely hear it moving. You can see it moving. It's pretty terrible, actually. We have, I believe this is Trilite in here, but the whole thing is.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Loose. So it doesn't take much to peel that off. And there's a bunch of loose ones all over here. Cracked tiles. Indented there. You got it recording?
Yes, yes.
So my name's Greg Twarg, and I'm setting this up, but I was just going to look and see what kind of a bond we have back here, and it was already loose up here, and all I'm using is a utility knife. I should not be able to grab Trilite, Laticrete's Trilite off with my hand. This was no bond whatsoever. There is zero bond. We're supposed to, inside of a shower enclosure, have 90% bond. We have no bond. And I could just keep pulling this off. This was too dry of a mortar bed to be installing this. That's what this is telling me here. It should have been a deeper trowel and should have been a properly mixed mortar. If you take a mortar and you start adding water to it because it's running late in the pot life, if you're starting to get into the 45-minute mark, the last thing you want to ever do is start adding water to it to loosen it up, because this is the kind of thing that occurs, is that it just gets weaker and weaker and doesn't have grab. So between the mortar not being properly mixed and this being too shallow of a trowel, they should have used probably a 3/8 deep V trowel. It would have been a much better solution. But with that said, these tiles were starting to come loose as I was pulling it. I guarantee if I just start pulling on this, it just starts coming off like this. You should not ever have a situation to where you can pull this off the wall by hand. This is literally not even taking a hammer. That's no bond. You got very, very little coverage. That should be full coverage. You should have this much stipple going across the whole landscape of the back of the stone. That's not occurring. This is a total fail. But they just come off with your bare hands. So there's no bond. And they used Laticrete's Trilite, so I know that it would have a perfect grab if they would have installed the mortar properly or used a proper trowel. But that trowel is not enough, or the mix was overwatered. You have several cracked tiles going along the seams. They have another tile that's just, I don't know, hanging out there. Comes all the way down here. The wall looks like it's pushed in here at that point. Looks like it's pushed. You can kind of see how that goes in there. The wall wasn't flattened out enough. The layout, they went full and half tile off the one side. Tiles are much smaller over here and they're not even. My guess is, based on what you see in the grout joint, that it's 1/8 of an inch trowel back behind there. So I'm fully anticipating, if these tiles don't have any grab whatsoever, that I hit it with the hammer and tiles just pop off. And of course, these are the same thing. They've got all these. These are all loose in here. The only thing keeping these things from falling off is the adhesive on the back of the mat. Look at that. So, unfortunately, we had to take both the floor, which thankfully they cut them, but they did not install them yet. They were going to install right on top of this Durock without any thin set underneath it. I'm just going to, the homeowner is just wanting to move forward and take everything off the walls and redo it. Yeah, I'm just, so I took this one sheet off, just using my bare hands and my utility knife, nothing fancy. I was just cutting the mesh because I didn't know where the sheet started and began. This one came off. I thought it could be isolated, but the trowel is just not, it didn't give the thin set enough grab. I mean, as you can see on there, we have very little bond with very little of the pieces, and less than half the pieces are getting a bond. And this one here, I just kind of worked my way down, and this is how easy this should be used. We should be using a hammer here to take this off, not just my bare hands like that. That one's got a little bit more, but again, it should not be able to just pull these off. There's very little collapsed ridges in this whole thing. This is where the ridges were collapsed. You can see the dots. The rest of it's just floating there. I don't think. Not good. Never acceptable. We'll work on these tiles here on the back wall next. I could keep going, but I was just doing an exploratory, not necessarily wanting to break a sweat. The bond is in the back wall. The client has agreed that this is a wall that we cannot save. The side walls are coming off by hand. We don't even have to use a chisel at all. I know if I use a chisel, they'll peel right off, so it's not even necessary. We're just looking to see how well or not well these tiles stuck to the wall. So if you can pull the spacers out, great. Having them sit there is okay to do. No, that's pretty well stuck. No, that's stuck. This is how it was supposed to stick, just like the far wall. I was anticipating it. Now, that doesn't mean the bond is great. Although it is, we're okay here. Sometimes bond is easily broken. This one, they're stuck. So that's good. This is all very good. But we also have screws in here. So the membrane's been pierced many times over. No way of really sealing it back up again. So really the substrate isn't waterproof. Just gonna try it. This one's stuck too, so that's good. So this back wall has a good bond. There's other things wrong with it, including the fact that the coated screws are not covered by any kind of sealant or any kind of membrane. It's just thin set there. But the bond is one thing that was okay. Just gonna keep prying them in these joints. So that bond isn't great. It came off here. And you can see they didn't really have very well collapsed ridges. That should have an even stipple going across it. Let's see if we do another one next to it. Yeah. So these are stuck on enough, probably, to have that 80 to 90% coverage. Yeah, these are stuck, so that's good. Oh, no bond. It stayed stuck and needed a hammer to do it, but it doesn't mean that these can't just pop off on their own later, which has been known to happen. That needs to be a thicker trowel, just like how it was over here. This is too small of a trowel. Definitely need more of a grab than that. So whenever you pull a tile off and you see that you don't have even stipple going across, the best thing to do as an installer, stop where you're at, grab a larger trowel, one step up, right? So if this was 1/8 inch, they want to bump it to a 3/8. You're gonna do 3/8, bump it to a 1/2 inch if you need to. Or these were V's, so you could probably bump it to a square notched trowel, and it would have treated the situation better. So bond, less bond, almost no bond. I'm gonna do one more over here. Watch out, I don't want this to be necessary. No, it's not gonna pop off. So that's one redeeming thing, is they're not popping off. It's still not a terrific bond. You can see that maybe this was starting to dry out on them. They're pressing it in, and the guy might have pressed more on this one and then hardly at all on this one. Maybe he just put it in there lightly. You know, maybe it was a thinner tile and he didn't want it to press in too much, so he just said he was going to lightly push that. Didn't get a great bond. The biggest thing that we could do for our installs to secure success is to make sure that our mixes are mixed properly within the recommendations of the product, and then have our proper methods to where we're putting in a large enough trowel and making sure that our mixes aren't drying out. We're into the other bathroom now. So same thing as it was upstairs. They went right on top of debris, including that blue plastic there for some reason. It was just all found up underneath this Durock, and the Durock is completely smooth, as you can see. So this is not thin set from the install of the board. The Durock here, they've completely failed the curb. This is all loose. This is all loose. He's got the sheet membrane cut short. It should be wrapping around to the outside and getting screwed to the back side. There's no membrane. They've put a ton of screws through the sheet membrane. Nice cut sheet lines, so the joints are all fully visible, and that's just an aesthetic. The main thing is that they've got a backwards pitch going with the curb, so the water's going to pitch that way, the way they currently have it installed. They clearly don't have enough sealant going along to where the corner is. There's no sealant present going all the way around here, no flashing. Bare screw heads, no flashing. I mean, sure, can they add it later? That's fine, but you should be compressing the sealant into the board and then flashing it. They don't have proper pitch to the pan, by the way. You put a level on it, there's all kinds of areas where there could be bird baths. But here's the real interesting part. They put screws down on the bottom, right through the membrane. So this is a total gut as well. He's got, this board is pronounced. This drywall is proud of the 1/2 inch board on the wall. So we'll make sure that we fur it out properly. Make sure that we have an even surface going from the tile area to the drywall area. But it's a shame that people take advantage of others in a way where they're charging for this. This was not the cheapest bid. I've got all shoddy work in here. There's it. Well, there's holes in the grout. You'll notice holes, pinholes, which means that the grout was probably too loose being put in. I don't quite understand some of these cuts that are in the middle of the floor, but regardless, this curb failing makes the whole shower garbage. So it all comes out. It's a shame that they don't have the fundamentals figured out.